Tell me when everything's fine.
We are live.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Oops, did I just? I put my thumb over that, so sorry about, wow, this is bad. I will be in and out, I'm telling you. Sorry about that.
There you go.
Boy, I'm not touching it now. Okay. Again, good morning. Today, the Criminal Justice and Public Safety is, today is Friday, January 28th. We will be having two sessions, work sessions on bills. And I will tell you that the purpose, this is a work session. We've already had public hearings. And the purpose of the work session is for the committee to receive information from staff and others in order for the members to consider the legislative proposals before us and make recommendations to the legislature. Normally, we will probably end with a vote. Only committee members, the committee analysts, and those specifically asked to attend will be participating in the work session. For members of the public wishing to observe the meeting, it is being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel. We are also broadcasting the audio of the legislature's website. Materials will be provided electronically, sometimes from the screen share or posted on the committee's material page before the meeting. When it comes time for the committee to vote, we must have a quorum present, and we'll establish that. At least 7 members, including a senator. In order to be counted as present, your identity, the identity needs to be visually verifiable on Zoom. I will now call on the members to introduce themselves. And again, there we go. And I will recognize Senator Searway.
Good morning. I'm Senator Scott Searway and represent District 16, which covers Waterville, Winslow, Fairfield, Benton, Albion, and Clinton, as well as Unity Township.
Thank you. Representative Warren.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Charlotte Warren, and I represent the towns of Manchester and West Gardner and the city of Hollowell.
Thank you. Representative Costain.
Good morning, Senator. Dan Costain. I represent District 100, which is part of Etna, Dixmont, Plymouth, Newport, and Corinna.
Thank you. Representative Lookner.
Morning, I'm Grayson Lookner. I represent District 37. It's part of Western Portland down towards Libbytown and the Fore River.
I'm hearing my voice. Someone else got their mic on. Representative Pickett, Reckitt. Representative Reckitt.
Morning. My name is Lois Reckitt, and I represent the ocean end of South Portland, which is District 31.
Thank you. Representative Pickett.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Richard Pickett, better known as Dick Pickett. I represent District 116, towns of Mexico, Dixfield, Peru, Canton, and Hartford.
Representative Newman.
Yes, I'm Representative Dan Newman, District 76, which is Belgrade, Rome, Mount Vernon, Vienna, Fayette, and Wayne.
Thank you. Representative Pluker.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm Bill Pluker, House District 95. I represent Warren, Hope, Appleton, and part of Union.
Thanks. And I'm Senator Susan DeChambeau, representing District 32, which is Biddeford, Dayton, Lyman, Alfred, Arundel, and Kennebunk Port. I would also like to personally introduce our policy analyst, Jane Overton is with us, waving her hand. Thank you, Jane. And we also have another analyst, Dan Tadikoff, who will be joining us also. And our clerk, Deb Fahey, is with us. And she's nice enough, I have to tell you, I value what you do when you put the number on your screen, what we're discussing. I watched YouTube of another committee, which was 3 hours long, and I couldn't find the bill they were talking about. So
Senator, you'll recall that was your idea at the beginning of last session. So thank you.
Boy, that sounds like, well, thank you. That's gracious of you. I didn't know that. Okay, I forgot. So I believe I'm ready, and I will start for a second. We will begin with what is that? LD. I'm looking for it. Oh, LD 1797. And Ms. Overton, could you brief us on that bill?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is LD 1797, an act to amend the laws governing the main length of service award program. I did do a traditional bill analysis on this bill and send it to you just maybe half an hour ago. But I would suggest that we probably take a shortcut and go straight to the proposed amendment. And when you want Deb to bring that up on the screen, she's ready to do that. There are a number of people here present as attendees that you might want to know were involved with this amendment in case you want to bring them in to talk to you about it. Particularly, I recall working with Sam Hurley, Jay Bradshaw, Chief Gillespie, another chief, the chief from Winthrop. And so we have an amendment ready for you. Would you like it up on the screen, Chair, right now?
Yes, yep. I think most of us have it with us. Yeah, the amendment.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, and you can scroll down, Deb. We did some work in this amendment with definitions to just make it clearer, so that we didn't have to keep referring back to definitions that were in other sections of the statutes. And the definition of department has changed to fire department, ambulance service, or non-transporting emergency medical service. That's in order to bring in volunteers who work in those other types of services. So you can scroll down, Deb, that'd be great. Keep going, keep going. I think that's all the same issue. Keep going, here we go, stop. This is the Board of Trustees. One of the things the amendment does is the original bill, the two persons who were licensed as emergency medical services people were being selected from a list of nominees from the Bureau of Maine Emergency Medical Services. And so at the suggestion of Sam Hurley, that Bureau is being changed to the board. So you can see there, the board is making those nominees. You can scroll down then. Keep going, I think. Keep going. Keep going. These, you can stop there, I guess. The rest of these suggested proposals are all about the change to pull in the other types of volunteers and the provisions of the bill that calculate service credits in statute were removed, which returns the calculation of service credits to rulemaking, which the board already has. I think that's all I have for you. I'm happy to take any questions, or any of the people who were the experts really who were so helpful to me are available on the attendee list. Thank you.
Any clarifications or questions of our analysts? Statements? Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Stairway, I see your hand. Go right ahead.
Just asking what the fiscal note, if there is any yet on it.
We haven't asked for that yet. I don't anticipate a fiscal note on this bill.
Okay.
Oh, okay, that makes sense though, yeah.
Well, I should have said I don't anticipate a cost. There may
Yeah.
be a fiscal note that the cost can be absorbed within the Department of Public Safety.
So it basically focuses on the makeup of the board and cleans up the language to include them. I mean,
Yes, and to make more people eligible, but the funding for the length of service award program is a separate issue.
thank you. That was my question also, Senator Sailway. So Representative Beckett, you had your hand up. Was that your question probably? Oh, okay, so we're all set. I've got Representative Pickett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. After looking at the amendment we had the other day, we were ready to roll on this, it seemed, and we now know who is included, that no one's been left behind in this or anything. So I would make a motion ought to pass amended.
I'll second it.
The motion's been made by Representative Pickett, seconded by Representative Newman. No questions on that motion. We're ready to vote, are we? Okay. Ms. Fahey, would you call for the vote?
Of course. Representative Warren.
Yes.
Representative Warren votes yes. Representative Morales is not on the Zoom. Representative Reckett.
Yes.
Representative Reckett votes yes. Representative Sharp is not on the Zoom. Representative Lookner.
Yes.
Representative Lookner votes yes. Representative Pickett.
Yes.
Representative Pickett votes yes. Representative Costain.
Yes.
Representative Costain votes yes. Representative Rudnicki is not on the Zoom. Representative Newman.
Yes.
Representative Newman votes yes. Representative Pluker.
Yes.
Representative Pluker votes yes. Senator Lawrence is not in the meeting. Senator Searway.
Is this ought to pass as amended?
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to make sure.
Senator Searway votes yes. Senator DeChambeau.
Yes.
Senator DeChambeau votes yes. That's 9 yes votes and 4 members are absent today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we ready to start 1446? Okay. Again, this is a work session and the public hearing was heard in May of last year. So this bill is an act to aid municipalities in the issuance of concealed handgun permits. And our other analyst, Dan Tadikoff, has joined us and he will be presenting to us his analysis of this bill after our public hearing. So there you go, Dan. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. I'll I'll screen share my analysis real quick that I sent out to you yesterday, I think. So this is LD 1446, Representative Pluker's act to aid municipalities in the issuance of concealed handgun permits. The bill requires the Department of Public Safety, Chief of the State Police, upon request, to provide assistance in conducting a background check for a concealed handgun permit for a municipality that has not designated the Chief of the State Police as the issuing authority for concealed handgun permits. This bill is a carryover. It had a public hearing May 5th of last year and a work session the following day, May 6th, at which the committee unanimously voted to carry over the bill to the second regular session. At that work session, the committee learned that the Maine Municipal Association, with input from the Maine State Police, was willing to conduct outreach to municipalities that do not have a municipal law enforcement agency and do not have an agreement with the Maine State Police to serve as the issuing authority for concealed handgun permits. The intent of the outreach was to determine how those municipalities were processing permit requests and whether they would be interested in designating the Maine State Police to serve as issuing authority were that option available. MMA committed to reporting the results of its outreach by January 2022, and it submitted a report to the committee in late December of last year. And I shared that report again with you. I've noted here those that testified for and against the bill, and I have some additional information and notes from the hearing or work session. As noted by the sponsor at the initial work session, the intent of the bill was to focus on those municipalities that do not have access to a law enforcement agency to serve as issuing authority. The original bill does not provide that limitation, and the sponsor noted he would support such a clarifying amendment. I've also noted here that pursuant to Title 25, Section 2002-A, a municipality may designate the Maine State Police to be the issuing authority for permits to carry concealed handguns, but only if the state police agrees to that designation. From information provided on this bill, it appears that there are more than 360 municipalities that have designated the state police as the issuing authority. There are approximately 70 municipalities without a municipal law enforcement agency and without a designation with the state police to serve as issuing authority. And then I think we're assuming that the municipal law enforcement agencies of the remaining municipalities are serving as the issuing authority in those municipalities. Per the Maine State Police, following the enactment of LD 652 in 2015 that authorized permitless concealed carry and its corresponding removal of a number of positions at the state police, it decided to cease new agreements to serve as issuing authority for a municipality pursuant to Section 2002-A. The state police, however, continued to serve as issuing authority for any municipality that had made such designation prior to the 2015 law change. The state police testified it does not currently have the resources to handle the additional workload associated with taking on new municipal designations under 2002A. Per the MMA report, which I assume they will speak to, it's estimated that if the Maine State Police were to be designated to serve as issuing authority for those 70 or so municipalities without a law enforcement agency or a state police designation, an additional 2 administrative staff positions and 1 detective position at the state police would be needed. I've noted here that from information provided, the enactment of the permitless concealed carry law did not result in a decrease in the number of concealed carry permits requested by individuals, as some had apparently expected. In some instances, it appears the passage of that law actually resulted in an increased number of such permit requests. As noted by the state police and MMA, some of the information the state police accesses in conducting a review of a concealed carry permit application as required by Section 2003 may be designated confidential. Sharing any such confidential information with non-law enforcement personnel could raise legal concerns, especially given that an applicant whose permit request is denied has the right to appeal pursuant to the Maine Administrative Procedure Act. I've noted here, and I don't want to really get ahead of the MMA report, but as they did note in the report, the survey uncovered 2 additional outstanding questions, which I've noted below, regarding the interpretation of the existing permit law that the committee may want to discuss further. One is whether county law enforcement can serve as the issuing authority for a municipality, and 2 is whether a municipal law enforcement agency of one municipality can serve as the issuing authority for a different municipality. I've noted here that Section 2002, subsection 9 defines issuing authority for a legal resident of a municipality as the municipal officers, the municipal chief of police, or the Maine State Police if they've been designated. for residents of the unorganized territory, non-residents, I'm assuming of the state, and licensed professional investigators. The Maine State Police is the issuing authority. There's no fiscal information available at this time. I'll stop my share now and answer any questions anyone has.
I'm going to have some, but I would turn it to the members if you have questions of the report or anyone needs to clarify that. We have obviously the sponsor with us, Representative Fluker. Representative Fluker, maybe if you, because you, is there an amendment or am I?
We don't have anything drafted, no.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll begin with how Mr. Tadikoff ended about those two specific questions. And I mentioned this with some of you prior to this meeting, so I'll do it publicly. In reading about this, because it really is a patchwork quilt, I mean, one bill after another. Let me just get my notes here. What I found is the state of Maine really did not require a handgun, a concealed handgun permit. It was based on, there were some arguments when that first came up years ago, and it was viewed as it's a constitutional permit that you have a right to carry a concealed weapon. But they put that into law, and most of it was so that they could have a permit from the state of Maine, because I believe 19 or 20 states do require a permit. So if you went vacationing at a state park in Colorado and they require a permit, you would have to show one. So you would get one from Maine. And it was interesting that one law was voted on thinking it would decrease, and it's been increased because I think more people now know about the handgun. So I wanted to make that as a statement if someone wants to refute that. But I also, because when I first read MMA's proposal, I think in May, they said they were in opposition of having the state police join in at this point. And they did make a recommendation or a statement saying maybe those small towns could contract with other municipalities. So I had the same questions as what MMA put out there. And one thing I was able to decipher from all that is you take a small town that doesn't have a police chief, and it's small enough, but people pay taxes. They have selectmen, so that when you needed law enforcement and you don't have your own police chief, the question is, they probably have a contract that the sheriff's department is covering that town. And I see, I will ask Representative Pickett probably to comment on that. So if the sheriff is covering the town who wants this can ask for or deal with a contract to provide the service of producing the handgun permit. And the other one is, can one municipality serve as issuing? That's another question. If we're talking about Warren, Maine or Hope, Maine, that doesn't have that, could they contract with Rockland that has a police department to, and it's an agreement. So those are two outstanding questions for me, rather than just focus on the state police, who have already made a comment and in opposition to this. So I throw it out there, and maybe Representative Pickett, who has been a sheriff, can enlighten us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Right now in our town, and I'm on the Board of Selectmen there as well, we do no longer have a police department. They expanded that. It's going on 2 years now, I think, since that's been disbanded. So unbeknownst to me, I found out that the county sheriff is doing the background and some of the requests, criminal records checks and stuff like that. And then they're turning the stuff back to the town, and the town fathers issuing the permit, much as what I think some of these other towns that may be doing that same thing. We've not issued a permit since I've been back as a select person. And until we get that piece straightened out and find out whether or not that is legal to be doing, I have real concerns about that, as I have concerns for any community we have that does not have their own police department and is not an unorganized territory. So I have some real concerns about that. As far as another municipal law enforcement agency serving or issuing for a different municipality, I'm not aware if by law you can do that or not. I know that in our area where I'm from, that was not a practice that was being done, to my knowledge, by anybody. It was the local municipality was having their permits done by their chief of police, and the chief of police, and in some cases, like in our town, the municipal officers can give authority to the chief of police to issue the permit without having to go through them first. And that's what we were doing in our municipality while I was there as chief. So those are a couple of situations there. The other concern I have is that 70 plus departments that are not do not have the state police doing their permits, and I see on page 8 of the information that we got from Rebecca Graham of MMA, question 7 says, would you be interested in designating the Maine State Police to provide this service for your municipality? And about 40, maybe 40, 38, maybe 45, 46% said yes, and about 55 or almost 60% said no. And that, so I think where we would have to take, and we've a couple of issues that I have with the bill right now, and which would need to be addressed before I could support it, would be when we say, it says in the bill, the state police, I believe, in the actual bill, it says the state police shall provide. It doesn't say may. So in other words, we've kind of got away from the agreement thing and saying they're going to provide for these agencies that do not have the ability to do that. So that's problematic to me. I don't like shall. I don't like mandating things on people. I never have. So that's one thing. The other thing is, if we were to go this way, having looked in the information that we received as well from the state police saying a supervisor and two detectives to take up the slack and be able to do these. We have places where we need our state police doing things that are far more important than doing a concealed weapon permit. And I think we ought to be, I have a problem with having to put people on when we can't even put enough state troopers out there to do 24/7 coverage. So that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Senator DeChambeau, Representative Reckitt and Representative Pluker have their hands up.
Excuse me, I was talking and I was muted. I'm sorry. Here we go again. Thank you for watching me there, Representative Warren. Representative Pluker, please. You had a question or comment?
I think Representative Reckett might have had her hand up first. How-
Okay, I will confirm that. Yes. Okay, Representative Galgay, Reckett.
I have a question, and this is partially out of my, well, I hesitate to say ignorance. I've listened to enough debates around guns to have some knowledge. My question is, how different is the information sought when somebody wants a concealed carry permit from the information that's obtained by background checks when somebody is purchasing a gun from a licensed dealer? Does anybody know the answer to that? I mean, is it the same information that we're worried about not getting? And because the simplistic person here says if we had universal background checks, we wouldn't have to worry about this because everybody would have done that. Eventually it would kick in. But right now, I'm just thinking about who could do the investigation that's necessary to okay somebody for a concealed weapons permit. And so I'm with you, Representative Pickett, in terms of who gets to make that transfer of information to the authority that would issue the permit. But you know, if it's not any different from what we're worried about them not getting when they're checking a concealed weapons permit, isn't any different from what a background check pops up, why couldn't we use that same system to do this process wherever it is that background checks are done? Check.
Thank you. Maybe Representative Kluger had his hand up and listening that he could.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind is that if you are asking for a concealed weapons permit, it's a higher bar that you need to pass than if you're just, well, obviously
Getting it
anybody can
done.
purchase a gun, but if there were a background check, because you need to be of good moral character, is the way I understand it's written in the statute. So it's a little bit of a deeper dive into someone's personal history before you get the concealed weapons permit. And then going back to Representative Pickett's comments, the reason shall is in the bill is because existing right now, if a town or municipality were to request aid from the state police in issuing those permits, they may help. There's no law excluding them from helping. But what's happening now is that people are issuing the permits, in the case of my town, after a Google search. So we don't have access to potentially confidential information like restraining orders, potential history of having been blue papered, protections from abuse and those kinds of things, which do get us into a problem with, I'm not an expert on federal law, but I know at least some of those are, if you're issuing concealed weapons permits to people who have been blue papered, that's against federal law. So we find ourselves as a state now in opposition to federal law and some of the concealed weapon permitting law. The other aspect that I think we want to try to think about is the fact that we have reciprocity. I believe in the MMA report, it says of over 20 different states. So if they find out that Maine is no longer in accordance with federal law, we endanger our existing permit holders from not being able to carry those guns out of state or even into national parks or other federal buildings. So I think right now we're in a situation where our actual entire system of concealed weapon permits is a little bit hanging in the balance if word of the actions of these 70, 75 towns were to get out. I think the idea around issuing authority or who has issuing authority and who shall be the issuing authority is a good one. I think that if part of this bill, we wanted to make it clear exactly who has issuing authority and who does not have it, or widen the scope of who has issuing authority, we could do that as part of this bill. Yeah, so if at the end of the day, we do not believe the Maine State Police are capable of kind of maintaining the integrity of our concealed weapon permits, who do we turn to for that work? I don't believe it's going to be town managers who don't have access to confidential background checks. And I think we do have a real issue. This isn't a bill in search of a problem. This is a problem. And I think, you know, I don't have any language drafted here to solve it because I wanted to kind of get into it and see where we could all come together on this. Because we do have people who want to maintain the integrity of their gun permits on one side, and then we have folks who really want to make sure that the people who have guns are responsible citizens and have passed all the applicable laws. Thank you.
Representative Rickett, when you asked that question, I was brought to the testimony from Lieutenant Johnston last year, because my eyes just popped out when I read this, that municipalities in Maine, like Representative Pluka said, is the issuing authority is the mayor. This is in public law. The mayor, municipal officers, or councilors of the city can issue those, which is scary. Lieutenant Johnston continues by saying that they don't know how they could assist non-law enforcement people, such as the ones I mentioned, to be the authority because of the background checks. And he continues by saying, state and federal law prohibits civilian non-law enforcement personnel from possessing that kind of information, which leads to, if they're denied, they can appeal, and it becomes problematic because they don't have a right to know about, especially in good moral character, might include some psychiatric background checks that a non-law enforcement officer cannot obtain. So I agree with Representative Pluka. I think he also acknowledges the more you delve into that, the more you say you got to go back to the beginning and clean it all up. This is my position, anyways. Mr. Tadikoff, you have your hand up. Wish to.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, because we talked about this question of who could serve as issuing authority, and I think Representative Pluker suggested that perhaps if you want to look at some of the options that are being noted as existing currently, you may need to amend the statute. I just wanted to very, very quickly share that definition. And as you can see here, there does not appear to be the ability for county law enforcement or a different municipality to serve as the issuing authority for a municipality. But from a technical standpoint, it sounds like what is happening in a lot of these instances is that the municipality remains the issuing authority, but all of the work to get from a permit request to a decision on the request is being done by another entity. And that's not strictly prohibited under the law, but the way the law is set up, it seems to believe that the entity that is the issuing authority is going to be doing all of that work. And that's certainly the way the permit criteria are set up in the law. So I don't know if that was helpful, but I did want to note, I think the answer to those questions of whether or not county law enforcement can serve as the issuing authority or another municipality serve as the issuing authority is no, not under the current law.
Dan, did you include that somewheres that I may have skipped that? And if not, could we have access to that? Send us what you just read?
The law?
No, yeah, what you just read.
Yes, I sent the whole chapter. I can resend it again. So it's on the top of your inboxes if you'd like.
Whole chapter, okay.
It was another attachment on the email I sent.
Okay. Yeah, if you would, please. I've got so much paperwork here. I haven't seen that. Maybe. Oh, okay. All right, that's chapter 25, title 25, I should say. Okay. All right, thank you. Representative Warren?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question, and I apologize if this has already been stated. Did the state police give us an idea of the number of FTE this would take to do this? Looks like
I think
Representative Fluker.
Representative Fluker.
Yeah, there was 2 staff people and 1 detective is what they require.
Uh,
2 staff persons and 1 detective. And just remind me, Representative Fluker, do you have any of those positions currently in your bill?
They were not as originally written.
Okay, thank you.
I saw Dan's hand first, or is that an old hand?
No,
Okay.
just to be clear, I think those 3 positions were, if all of those 70 municipalities were to want to designate the Maine State Police. So that was, I think, based on MMA's assumption of all of them needing the assistance and using sort of an average amount of permits requests that they would expect to fall on Maine State Police because of that. They didn't provide a specific dollar amount for those positions, but it looks like 3 FTEs.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
And I see Representative Pickett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that's what they have there is the, on page 9 and 10 of the handout that Dan sent us that has the MMA stuff in it. It talks about the projected estimated number of municipalities that might use them, and that I think that's what they based all that stuff on. But anyways, the other thing I have is I believe Lieutenant Tyler Stevenson is in here, who is in charge of doing these right now, and he's present in the gallery. If there's no objection, I'd like to have him come in and weigh in on this subject.
Okay, Representative Warren.
I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Deb, would you be able to bring him in?
Sorry, I missed the name.
Okay, Tyler Stevenson.
Got it. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. Could you mute yourself, please?
Sorry.
Senator, you might be on mute. I can't see your mouth moving, but I think you're on mute.
One moment. No, I just went blank there for a minute. Lieutenant Stevenson, is it? Is it Lieutenant?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
Okay, well, welcome. Would you please identify yourself and your position?
Sure. I hope you can all hear me. It's
Yep.
COVID central at my house, so I'm
Oh.
not used to being in my house. So I don't know how the sound's going to be. And you may get a cat fly across the screen or something like that. But, my name's Lieutenant Tyler Stevenson with the State Police.
Good, thank you. I believe there was a question for Mr. Stevenson or to make a statement. Who said that one?
Hey.
Excuse me?
Me.
Oh, Representative Pickett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Lieutenant, thank you for being here. I just thought I'd like to have you weigh in on if you had a chance to, number one, if you had a chance to look at the information from you were part of making of those decisions with the MMA over the summer, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. we met several times with Rebecca over the summer on this.
And would you weigh in on this as to what the state police is thinking right now, whether or not they would want to take on the task, and if so, what you'd have to have in order to do it?
Yeah, sure. It was very interesting doing this work, and it did expose some issues with the permitting process, with involving the municipalities, and a need to aid it. And we recognize that, and we, take great pride in a permitting system. Our problem is the lift on the state police in 2022 is too great. And I brought it to the command staff, and that's how they feel about it. And, having the positions is fantastic, but the lift kind of goes upwards. We might be able to process the permits. We might be able to have the detectives look at the problems, but it continues to go upwards to the AG. If they end up needing a hearing, the AG that is involved with us, and ultimately the chief who makes the final decision, the colonel. So that's our opinion right now.
I have Representative Costain, followed by Representative Pluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question basically was a comment from before, but I'd like to ask the lieutenant. So we have 45 roughly agencies that said they would like to come over to have you guys do the work. As we know that there's an issue with the permitting process, and there has been for a long time, with people doing it that shouldn't be doing it. So as a legislature, I don't know how we can sit here and say, we're only going to bring 45 people over agencies when the other 35 or 40 agencies are doing it themselves, but they're still doing it wrong. So I think it needs to be everybody that's not being issued by a local police department should be under the state police. And I think that either you guys need to do it, or we need to figure out as a legislature somebody to do it. I mean, the most logical thing, of course, is you guys to do it, although I understand that you guys are strapped and et cetera as well. So I just feel like we're half fixing it by bringing 35 or 40 people over. We need to bring, if we're going to do this, we need to make a policy that anybody that's hasn't got a local department, that the state police or whoever is going to take care of that issue. Can you comment on that?
I don't think anyone would disagree that the system is broken.
Right.
And we do a fine job with our permitting system. It's the timing of it all, and the state of the state police right now in 2022. That's the problem. So I don't disagree with you, sir.
Right. So I said follow up, ma'am. So I sit here and think about it, being in this career as well for many years. We always think of liability. So we're thinking about the fact that we know we've got an issue. We know that it's not correct, but we only want to half fix it. Okay, for one thing. And the second part of that is what happens with the people that fall through the cracks that shouldn't be carrying a weapon, and then something happens there. So that's my thought. Thank you.
And Representative Pluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lieutenant Stevenson, I just wanted to clarify. So if you were to get the positions, those two staff or the 3 full-time equivalents that we're discussing, the worry from your leadership is more about defending it with the AG, or the time required later on to defend it with the AG if something were appealed?
No, not necessarily. It's the entirety of taking on additional responsibilities and how that has a rippling effect throughout the agency, all the way up in this case to the colonel, because they're the final decision maker, and just adding on additional work, which is kind of seems to have been the theme over the years. You just keep piling it on. And as an agency, we're just taking a stance that in this case, we feel like enough is enough. I guess it's not a very political way to say it, but that's how we feel.
A follow-up, Madam Chair. Could you just clarify, Lieutenant Stevenson, what the colonel's role in this is?
Am I okay to answer?
I believe so, yes. Thank you.
So my unit, we don't just issue concealed handgun permits. We also, this part of the unit that I oversee, we also issue private investigator licenses, contract security licenses, and polygraph licenses. And each one of them falls to an agency head. So concealed handgun permits, the end stop is the colonel. They have the ultimate say. On contract security, it's actually the commissioner, and polygraph's actually the commissioner. So in this case, if a decision to deny someone a concealed handgun permit is made, it is ultimately the colonel or his designee that makes that decision. And if someone was to request a hearing, was entitled to a hearing, and it was arbitrated, and the arbitrator actually makes a recommendation to the colonel on their recommendation on whether the permit should be issued or not, it again falls to the colonel and is the final designation. So not all concealed handgun permits go all the way to the colonel, but some of them do make it to that level. Does that make sense?
I think it does. And Madam Chair, I would just ask how many nowadays are going to the colonel?
A handful. As sometimes it's an official, we're writing a memo to the colonel. I know that there's a hearing in the works right now with a concealed handgun permit that will ultimately go to him. I would say less than 10 he has input on a year.
Thank you.
Okay. I have Representative Warren, followed by Representative Brecken.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here, Lieutenant. So I'm just trying to understand that even with 3 full-time folks, it kind of sounds like you're saying philosophically, we won't take anything more on. And I don't think that's what you mean to say, but I'm just trying to get my arms around what you're trying to say. Because we know there's a problem, and I would agree with Representative Costain, about liability, but also, I represent a district, and I've heard from a lot of folks about reciprocity, and we, so we kind of have concerns on both sides, right? And so to just hear, oh, philosophically, even if you give us more people, we aren't going to do this. I'm struggling with it a little bit. B, I think it would be a little tough for Maine people to hear. So can you help me with what your message is here?
Sure. I think Representative Pickett kind of went down the line. We're just dealing with the state police, and we're the state police, and we can deal with it, and it's what we're here for. But we're looking at the backlog of, child victimization, computer crimes, not having troopers out on 295 overnight, and struggling to come up with mission plans to overcome these monumental challenges. And although it's a need, concealed handgun permits are basically a voluntary system. Many of these people that we deny handgun permits to aren't disqualified to carry firearms. They can possess firearms. They just don't meet the moral character for us to issue a handgun permit. So we'll deny them. And the moment that they are denied, they can still put the handgun on their waist and walk out under the permitless carry system. So looking totality, that's the idea of it's a lift that if you pass this law, the state police will get it done like we always do. But we feel like our focus could be elsewhere at the moment. But I totally agree with you. I wish I could just snap my fingers and we would take all the permits in the entire state and it'd be under one system and they'd all be issued consistently. But we're just not in a place right now to do that. Does that make sense?
It really does. And thank you so much. And I understand. I think you separating sort of, it is voluntary. People don't actually need it. This is what can happen. You just helped me to see that. Not that I've changed my mind that I think you guys have to do it. I want to be clear about that. But I really understand where you're coming from. And it almost is, in this way, could possibly be seen more as a service as opposed to a public safety issue. That's my words. I know you didn't say that, but you helped me understand where you were coming from, and I appreciate that.
I now have Representative Reckett followed by Representative Pickett.
My question is, I'm looking at the statute that Dan gave us, which I think was very helpful in the sense that who knew there was this many pieces of the statute about this issue? But I keep reading about the permit fee. So there's apparently a fee for getting a concealed weapons permit, but it's not clear to me either how much it is or where it goes or what gets done with it or any of that stuff. So does somebody know? One of you must know who gets what the fee is and who gets it. And so that's part A. I just need to know the answer to that question to guide my thinking in some ways. But the other is I'm concerned on liability issues. I mean, what happens if a town decides to issue under the current rules and regulations, issues a concealed weapons permit without by doing a Google search, missing the fact that this person is prohibited federally from having a gun, frankly, never mind concealing it, because he's got a conviction under the Violence Against Women Act. And he shoots his wife. I mean, who's liable for that? Is it us for not fixing this, or the town for not doing the right thing and figuring out how to get that information? Is it the state police who, don't have to do 500 drop in? And I'm concerned. I personally have enough information and may not at the end of this discussion to responsibly vote on what's before me. I'm sort of in agreement with I think Representative Pluker said, but I might not have been what you said, is that we maybe need to look at this whole darn thing again in light of the pieces that we've discovered in the course of MMA's investigation, the lookabout of the state police, who I think have looked into this more deeply than they might have before this thing hit. So I'm not going to be happy to vote on this thing today, I have to say. But mostly I want to know who's what the heck the permit fee is and who gets it. I can start with that.
The permit fee, Representative Reckett, if you look at page 8 of what we got from Dan, it says it, but I'm looking and can't find where it goes. It sounds like it goes to the general fund. I don't see where it's dedicated or, oh, Lieutenant Stevenson has his hand up. It doesn't go to you, does it?
I guess some of it does in a roundabout way. So
Okay.
for a resident applying for their original permit, it costs $35. $25 of that goes to the state. And I checked today, and the checks, this is also a confusing system. So it's $25 go to the state. If it's a renewal permit, so after 4 years, they want to renew their permit, it's a $20 fee, and $15 goes to the state. So the town gets $10 on a new permit and $5 on a renewal permit. And that money does go into the general fund.
Thank you. Representative, are you all set, Representative Reckett? Okay. Representative Pickett?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that $5 and $10, I can attest to being a police chief in a small town. That doesn't pay the bills by any means. But anyways, what my question is, sir, is it seems to me that one of the things that is, there was that thought that when the concealed carry law came into effect, 652, I think it was, when that came into effect in 2015, that there was going to be a decrease in the concealed carry. But am I right in thinking that the reason why there is maybe even an increase is because of the people that want to be able to have it and carry it in the other 24 or 25 states and be able to have that with them? And that's really what's driving it, not the main communities they live in or the state of Maine they live in, but just to travel. Is that really what's pushing the increase?
Thank you, sir. I ran some numbers this morning. In 2014, both resident and non-resident, the Maine State Police issued 5,652 permits in 2014. In 2015, it did drop about 2,100 permits. But in 2021, today, we issued last year 4,794 permits. That is only 900 less than in 2014, where you were required to have a permit. I honestly think someone could do a research paper on why people still want these permits. And a lot of it has to do with what you said, reciprocity. Maine has reciprocity with 23 other states, which I do believe drives some of the in-state resident permits, and it drives a lot of the out-of-state permits. We issued 1,600 out-of-state permits last year, people who don't live in Maine, and a lot of them aren't coming to Maine to carry concealed. They're using it to carry in one of the other states. I think some of it has to do with fear that the permitless carry law will go away. And some people, I think, when I talk to them, just like having that satisfaction, that feeling that they've been, that they're an upstanding, responsible gun owner and going through the process to get the permit. I think those are all factors, but reciprocity is definitely probably the biggest one.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I've got Representative Fluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lieutenant Stevenson, could you tell me a little bit more about those 1,600 out-of-state residents? Why are they asking us for that instead of getting it in their home state?
Yeah, so it's going to be one of two reasons. They either want to carry a handgun concealed in the state of Maine, or they want to use our state permit to carry in another state, like Utah or Tennessee, that has reciprocity with us.
So follow up, Madam Chair. So they're coming from a state with which we don't have reciprocity and then want to carry in our state. And so we're offering that as a service, essentially.
Yes. So if someone from Delaware who we do not have reciprocity with, or Massachusetts is a prime example, we don't have reciprocity with Massachusetts. A lot of out-of-state people don't know about our permitless carry law, which applies to them, or they want to have reciprocity carry in another state.
Okay, so they don't actually need a permit from Maine to carry in Maine.
No, the permitless carry law applies to out-of-state as well as in-state.
Yeah, and just to comment, it feels like this is a service that we're providing to 1,600 out-of-staters when we can't provide the same service to folks here in the state of Maine. Senator DeChambeau, I was wondering about hearing from Sheriff Mary and hearing the sheriff's perspective on this conversation, and especially around the what does it mean for a law enforcement officer pulling somebody over who might have a gun in the car?
Wow. Okay.
I think that would be really helpful, Senator.
Yes. Let me see now. Sheriff Mary, would you please raise your hand, and Ms. Fahey will let you in. Good morning, Sheriff Mary. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. And who had a question? Yes, Representative Pluker has a question for you.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Sheriff Mary. I think one, I'd just like your perspective on the conversation as a sheriff, but then two, really, give me your perspective as you know, when your law enforcement officers are going out and pulling folks over with a gun in the car that either is being announced or not being announced. I'd love that perspective.
Thank you very much. So I'll start off by answering the second question first. And you know, it is something that I think it goes back to a very basic training issue that every time you approach a vehicle that's stopped, you're going to be suspicious, or at least be aware of any sort of situation in which a weapon might be present, or that the individual or individuals in the vehicle could possibly be armed. So there's always a heightened awareness, regardless of the reason for the stop. So we're always looking for that. What we have found is that a number of people will announce that they have either a weapon on them or someplace in their vehicle, and are very forthcoming about that. Every so often, and I don't have exact numbers, but every so often there will be an incident in which somebody will fail to declare that they have a weapon. And if it is discovered during the interaction, then there's oftentimes a citation issued for that. To the second part of the first question that you had asked on this particular issue, what I can tell you is that at least my agency, and I think I can speak for other sheriff's offices across the state, is we work with the Department of Public Safety, the Maine State Police. They send us a sheet when they get a resident from a a town in our communities in which we are the primary law enforcement agency. We will get notified that that individual is seeking a concealed weapon permit, and we'll do the local checks. We'll do see if there's any protective orders in place, to see if there's been any history of issues of person being taken into protective custody, or any other things that might raise red flags. Once those checks are completed, we'll sign off on that form and send it back to the Maine State Police, and they complete the rest of the permitting process.
Is that satisfactory, Representative Fluker? Any more
Yes, thank
follow-up? Okay, thank you. And thank you, Sheriff Mary. There may be other questions. Representative Reckitt, is that a new hand?
Well, it was, but it doesn't need to be now. So sorry.
Okay, thank you. If I may, Senator Stairway, before I forget, and I have another Zoom meeting coming up, I'm really bothered by putting a Band-Aid on this bill when I'm still so bothered about the wording of the issuing authority currently and still. You know, we can pass this bill as is or amend it and tweak it, but that section about the authority, even the city council or a mayor, still bothers me. And so I wanted to either hear something different at some time or a suggestion. But the more we all delve into this, everybody's got a history. There's a you can read the historical legend of this whole kind of thinking goes back to 1993 and so on and so forth. So, so I just wanted to mention that is still bothersome to me. I will stay until I have to leave, obviously. So I will now turn it over to Senator Stairway. Have a question? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm with you on that. And I just wanted to call Rebecca Graham up. I think she wanted to discuss just what you're talking about, and she may have some insight on that. So if we could have her come up.
Representative Warren stepped out, but I think she'll agree. I will ask for Rebecca Graham to join us, please. Hi, welcome. Welcome, Ms. Graham. I think you have a specific question of Ms. Graham, Senator Stairway.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Rebecca, what would you say about this situation as far as like other entities other than law enforcement involved, you know, in political realm or whatever, of approving these concealed weapons? What's your thoughts?
Thank you, Senator Stairway. As Lieutenant Stevenson and I dove deep into this issue, we started getting more and more concerned and thinking about how intense and intentional the process is that law enforcement undertakes when examining the good moral character, which is that discretionary act piece. You know, there's very obviously permits that are getting turned down as a result of that decision. Doesn't mean that that person can't carry a weapon. It just means that they're not getting that extra credential. But when you look at the prescriptive pieces of that obligation, not only is there some failures of municipal officials not maybe understanding that scope, but also that they functionally can't. They can't actually meet that statutory standard. And as elected officials are a broader group of individuals than law enforcement officers who have that access to that confidentiality, there could be instances where municipal officials are acting in their statutory capacity, but they themselves might be making decisions. They might not be qualified to carry a weapon or to actually qualify for that permit and be making a decision about someone else's permit status. I think that raises a question in MMA's eyes about whether or not that's an appropriate place for this to sit. It seems like it's of value to the state, and it's a state value permit, and it seems like that's at least some sort of level of process where there's law enforcement that's involved. It seems to be vital for maintaining that integrity if the permit is seen as valuable.
So, Madam Chair, just a follow-up.
Yes, go ahead.
Just so, is there a way that you could work with maybe Jane or someone to fix that language if we needed to?
I would be happy to. One of the things that I did note when I talked to other policing agencies, particularly agencies around the places that have the significant numbers of permits that they're issuing now and don't have that authority, is that they didn't have the capacity to take that on. So I think there is a question as well about what if you're a community that agency that has the capacity to assume this, whether that's county or an adjacent agency, local. I think that's a question that remains as well.
Oh, and to include Dan too. I'm sorry I left him out, but because he's been taking a lot of notes. So.
All right, Representative Warren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you, Ms. Graham. That's helpful. What I think I kind of hear you saying, but correct me if I'm wrong, is that this really is something the state should be providing.
At the risk of undoing all the great work that Lieutenant Stevenson and I did all summer, I think it does fit well within their scope of practice. And it's something that they are doing a heavy lift for at least 360 communities. I think that there's some timing in statute that makes doing that job really challenging. And there are pressures that I think are legitimate. And as he has pointed out, it's a voluntary, it's a benefit that is being provided. So in the terms of if this is important mission-wise, I can understand why this would be a lower priority, but I do think it's important that at least some level, law enforcement is involved in that issuing authority where you are, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm feeling like that too. And I'd like to turn to the committee and just sort of see if we're getting closer together on thinking that possibly that is the solution, as much as maybe we don't want to, because we understand that what it means for the state police. But could we see, are we closer to that together? Thinking it's probably a state police issue?
Anyone care to make a comment on that? Senator Seaway.
I don't, I understand them. I think the state police may be having the final say or something, but I don't understand why it wouldn't involve the sheriffs and municipal, communities as far as law enforcement to do all the checks and balances and then send it in just for a final approval through the state. I think that would be, to me, appropriate. But I don't see why they couldn't be included on background checks for handgun. I think, but I don't believe that the city, mayors and selectmen and those positions should not be qualified. I don't think they should be qualified for that.
So I represent a couple of communities that don't have municipal law enforcement.
Then you would go to state. Yeah.
Okay, so you're okay with a patchwork of a bunch of different places. That's helpful for me to know. I feel like that's the last thing we want is this continuation. So what about you, Representative Pickett?
Well, first of all, I have a question for the person we were talking to first, then I'll comment on your request. But thank you for being here, Mrs. Graham, Miss Graham, today. I wanted to thank you for that. Thank you for all the work you did with Lieutenant Stevenson and others putting this packet together for us. It's been very helpful. Didn't come up with the solutions as much as come up with the problems so that we can fix it at some point and make it work, hopefully. But I hear what you're saying about the state police and about your thinking that probably that's where this should probably end up if it goes anywhere at all. So two-part question. Would you agree that if it did do that, that the only places that they would have to take over would be if a not only the unorganized territories, but only, and I think that's what the intent of the bill is anyways, but I want to be clear on it. It would only be a municipality that did not have a police chief, correct? Okay, so there's that piece of it. And the second piece is, if we were to do this, I know you don't have any authority to say yes to this and provide any funding for it, but if we are going to drop this on the state police to do this, then the legislature is going to have to take it upon themselves to be able to fund it. We can't give something and not fund it. Would you agree with that? Even if we were going to be doing it to the municipalities, a mandate on you, would you not be thinking the same way? If the municipality has got to do it and we're telling you you have to do it, then let's find a funding source for it. Correct? Thank you.
Absolutely.
And in answer to your question, Representative Warren, of whether I think the state police should be doing it, I agree that we have a problem, and it sounds like we have more than one with the bill, with the things that need to be corrected. And I think we're not going to solve this today. There's absolutely no question about that. But we're in the second session, and there was a study done, and we've got the information back. I think it needs more work. If we can get to the point where we can make this a process that is got integrity and goes through the whole thing, I think I would agree the state police should take this on. But I come up short in saying that we just drop it on them without being able to work with them and get to the place where we all can agree that this is where it needs to be. This is how it's going to be done, and correct these issues we have with this particular bill right at the moment. I commend Representative Pluker for bringing the bill to our attention and then going through and seeing all these things. But I really think it needs much more work. But I don't think it's work that can't be done before the end of this session, so we can look at it again and do what we have to do. So that's my opinion on that. Thank you.
I have Representative Reckitt, followed by Representative Costain.
Thank you. I need a straightforward answer to a couple of questions. One of them is a citizen of Maine, I think I remember, doesn't need a permit to carry a concealed weapon. Is that true? Somebody just nod their head or not? Is that true? That's true. So we're not doing this for any citizen of Maine unless that citizen of Maine wants to go onto a federal jurisdiction or to another state or someplace else where they require a permit. Is that true? Representative Costain is shaking his head no. So because were that the case, then to me it's a, if you want to go someplace where you got to have a permit and you don't need one here in Maine as an ordinary citizen with a gun who wants to carry it, then, pay $600. I don't care. I mean, the issue is, why are we subsidizing out-of-staters who want to get a permit so they could go to some other jurisdiction that they had to have a permit in, they couldn't get in their own state, like Massachusetts, I assume is the most likely place that they're coming here to get that. And I just don't understand why we would think that we're going to hire 3 more state troopers or state police officers to do this for people for whom this is a discretionary activity, when we could have troopers on 295 in the middle of the night. I just don't, I mean, it's the wrong priority for me. So I don't think the process that we've got works. And I think that we have to spend some time, if people want to have a process, that we have to have one that works. And that's not the current situation. It's clear. So we either have to go back to the drawing boards, figure out a process that will work, and then we got to decide that it's a priority of ours to spend money to do that. And so that's my rave about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Reckitt. And thank you all for those comments and ways of going. But I don't think we're going to write the bill right here. And I think you said the key word, this needs, I can't wait to talk to Representative Pluker after the meeting and see what the game plan is after that. But I will now recognize Representative Costain, and followed by Representative Pluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to answer Representative Reckitt's question with my head shaking, there is other reasons. I mean, if we could ask the lieutenant, I mean, there's other reasons why people get a permit. One is they don't need to tell law enforcement that they're carrying a weapon. Okay, and that means a lot to some people. All right, that's one reason for a permit in Maine. Secondly, is there's places that you can go with a permit where you can't go without a permit. And I'm not sure which, don't recall the list of all the places, but there's certain reasons. So that's why people in Maine are getting permits, along with, some of the other things we've discussed. But I think that's 2 big ones. When you talk to people, they say, well, I don't want to tell a police officer I get a gun. So, or if you get stopped, to say, I'm carrying a weapon. So those are some of the big things. I'm for this bill, as I've said. I sort of feel bad for the state police. I as a rule, you guys know, I try to support law enforcement, support the state police. It's hard for me to support that in this situation, because I would like to see every agency, when I say agency, every town or unorganized townships that's not has a police department, go through the state police for their permitting. I don't want them to have a choice out of like 70 people. We were talking about the 70, 35 want to. Again, I think if we're going to do it, we need to say every permit's issued by the state police that's in an unorganized township or there's no local law enforcement. And yes, I agree with most of you guys today. I don't think this bill can be voted on today. There's some work that needs to be done, but I think we can get to where we want to be in the end. And again, very much support what the lieutenant's saying, manpower wise, but I think if we're going to support that, we're going to give them funding. I think they're going to have to do that. And I think in the end, we're going to have a much better program. One agency's doing it. One agency is taking care of it for all these unorganized things. And I think that's a way to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Costain. I just want to tell you, I need to leave. I'm running another meeting here. Representative Warren will take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Pluker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, I fully agree with it's not ready for voting today. And I knew we were going to be walking into a bit of a conversation, but I'm really glad we had the conversation I think it's given us some places where we can work. I think some things, some numbers that I'm looking at here are those 1,600 permits coming from out of state. I agree with Representative Reckett that we're subsidizing those at this point. I think those 1,600 permits will put us a long way towards the number of permits we might be seeing from municipalities if we allowed them to request the support of the Maine State Police in doing that. I think also just looking at the numbers, roughly 5,000 permits are being done currently by the state. If each of those cost $60, then that would give us about $300,000 in revenue. Rough ballpark, a position costs about 100,000. So 60 times 5,000 is 300,000. Another area where we can kind of work on things. I think the last place where we've kind of got to work out is exactly who is going to be the issuing authority. I don't think we are all in agreement on that one. But I do think that we have the ability to give the resources in terms of money and personnel and reducing the workload to the Maine State Police where they might be able to carry it, even though I understand that it's not their first choice. And happy to work with everybody here. And it just, send me an email, Ms. Graham and Lieutenant Stevenson and anybody else who'd like to be part of the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Pluker. Representative Pickett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think the funding piece is one that really has to be looked at, and I think there is some things that can be done there. And I hate to say this because we never want to do this, but it might even be that to help with that funding, maybe increasing the price of the permit as well. That's something that has to be in the mix of doing that. And for not only that, and if we do continue to do the other the non-resident, which there's a lot of states that do. I don't see why we shouldn't. Then maybe that price has to go up as well. Mm-hmm. And those are all things we need to talk about. But that being said, it's pretty obvious to me, and I think hearing from the sponsor as well, that we do have some work we have to do on this to be able to get to where we need to be. And I think we can beat it around some more, but I think we beat it pretty good for today. And unless it's out of order, I'm going to make a motion to table.
I'll second.
Thank you, Representative. Only because you spoke beforehand, let's have Senator Searway. Generally, you shouldn't make a big pronouncement and then table. So, Senator, would you be willing to make the tabling motion?
Sure.
I'll second.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to table by Senator Searway, and I heard a second by Representative Newman. All those in favor, and if we all agree, maybe we can just do it this way with our hands. Okay, that looks unanimous to me.
How many do we have right now? Still in here, so that I can get the count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
8, 9.
Dan, Newman, do you have your hand up? Okay.
9, you said?
Well, it depends on Representative Rudnicki if she's voting. I don't know.
I'm counting 8 because I haven't seen her yet.
And I think Senator DeChambeau had to leave, and last time our vote was 9, so that would be 8. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that. I think that gives the sponsor a good pathway forward. So we're having some technical issues. I think Deb had to sign off. Let's take and we have one more presentation for us today. Oh, Deb's here. Deb, do you need us to sign off or did you get it fixed?
No, it would just be, what I'll do is sign off and make you the host. Okay. And then come back in and you can hand it back and hopefully that'll fix what's going on over here.
Okay, so we'll just hang tight for a second.
Yeah, so I'm going to make you host right now.
Okay, thank you. Yep, it looks like I became the host. Okay.
Okay, that's looking good.
Okay, good. Okay, so next up we have Representatives Gramlich and Talbot Ross to give us a presentation. Oh, Dan, please.
Sorry, I know, I know we're running a little bit late. We had scheduled a quick language review. I don't mind bumping that if you want, but we can do that now real quick.
I'm sorry, Dan. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, we have the language review for what we did last week. And if we could just quickly do that with Dan, that would get that moving along and down to the floor. Yeah, go for it, Dan. Thank you.
Sure. So I sent this around yesterday. This is the committee amendment to LD 1307, Representative Cloutier's bill about fireworks. This language was reviewed in draft form at the work session where it was voted on. There are no substantive changes to my knowledge that were made in that. So the primary purpose of the language review is really a review of the fiscal note, which has a correctional and judicial impact statement regarding additional workload with any cases in the court system that may be associated with this, since this does fall under there was a change to the disorderly conduct law. There could be additional fine or fee revenue. Those are both standard items you see in a lot of fiscal notes. And it was also noted by the fiscal office that any additional cost to the Department of Public Safety associated with the legislation can be absorbed within existing budgeted resources. So there is a fiscal note. It does not have any specific cost to it. It's been incorporated into the amendment and the language is final. So unless anyone has any questions or concerns, I can go ahead and get this moving so it can be reported out.
Looks like everybody's good on that. Great. Thank you for that, Dan. Okay, so we'll have our presenters come on in when Deb's ready.
I think they're going to both come in as Jane Orbiton, and I'll fix their names.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good morning, Representative Gramlich.
Will the real Jane Overton please stand up?
At least you're both wearing the same colors.
I'll change my name.
I think Deb's working on it for you.
Perfect. Great.
Did already.
And I know Representative Talbot Ross is waiting to come through the wormhole.
We have, Representative Warren, have we moved to the briefing part of the session?
Yes, these folks are going to be briefing us, and they're coming in right now. Representative Gramlich and Representative Talbot Ross are briefing us on the Maine Mental Health Summit.
Do we have any other business to attend to after this?
No.
We're all done. I have, well, I had a point I wanted to make before we get into the briefing. And if it's all right to do so, I'd like to do it now.
Sure.
I got the copy of the letter that was sent to the Attorney General in regards to the Long Creek facility and the information requested. And I ran it by my caucus this morning. And where it says the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee has requested information, I personally do not think that is a true representation. And the reason I say that is this: we didn't really talk about that. That came up in the session, and there was a conversation on it. But we as a group did not request that information. So if the information is being requested, that's all fine and good. But I don't like having myself or my caucus involved in a request that we didn't ask for in the first place without at least having a chance to vet it first and see whether or not we would be in agreement to do that. So I just wanted to get that on record, that that's the stance that myself and the caucus take on that particular situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Anyone else? All right, I think we're ready for our briefing from Representative Gramlich and Representative Talbot Ross.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to apologize at the outset that I'm not going to be able to turn on my camera. I'm here at the State House and we're not able to, there's something going on with it. So my sincere apologies.
Yeah, there's a lot of technical stuff going on today. Thank you. Understood.
Well, I'll just get started. I know we're running a little bit behind schedule, and I think I'm probably the last thing between you all and your weekend. Representative Talbot Ross and I are. So I'm going to jump right in, and I've done this a bunch of times. Let's see if I can maneuver, and I'm going to go ahead and screen share. Okay. So folks can see my screen. Any affirmation? I'm assuming people can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I am Representative Lori Gramlich. I know I've been before you all before. Again, I represent House District 13, which is the district of Old Orchard Beach. And I am joined by my colleague, House Assistant Majority Leader, Representative Rachel Talbot Ross. And both Representative Ross and I, as well as others, including our own Representative Warren, had the opportunity to participate in and attend a mental health summit that we had last November, at the end of November, up at the Augusta Civic Center. The impetus around organizing and coordinating this mental health summit was due to the fact that we are really seeing our mental health, behavioral health care system and substance use disorder system really at crisis levels, beyond crisis levels. We know for a long time we have experienced the opioid epidemic, and COVID certainly has exacerbated this. So we really wanted to have an opportunity to elevate these issues and begin a conversation. So in November, we began our conversation. I know I had sent to all of my legislative colleagues earlier this week a bigger picture summary of the summit, and included in that was the video of our summit. It was a 5-hour event, but we were able to index it so that if you wanted to hone in on a particular piece, you would be able to do so easily. And I'm sure that you might all be interested in the piece that was relative to the intersection of criminal justice and law enforcement. So that is included in the video. We had 78 people attend at the Civic Center using good public health safety with COVID. We were all distanced and masked, but we also had 132 folks view the summit online in real time while we were presenting it. As I said, we are beyond crisis levels relative to our mental health system, and it was the beginning of conversation. Today, we'd like to continue the conversation, and I will give my colleague, Representative Talbot Ross, an opportunity to introduce herself.
Thank you so very much, Representative. I am Rachel Talbot Ross. I represent House District 40, which is part of Portland, and serve as the Assistant House Majority Leader. Really happy to be with you here today, and anxious to get on with the presentation. I just wanted to acknowledge all the work that this committee continues to do to address issues with the conflation of serious and persistent mental illness, substance use disorder, and criminalization. So I want to thank you for all the work that you do each and every day to address these populations and these issues that we're going to talk about. Thanks.
So some of what was highlighted at our summit included the fact that
Representative Gramlich, I hope you'll forgive me for a second. Unfortunately, I've just noticed that one entire caucus of my committee is not here. And since most of this part of the caucus actually attended the summit, I'm not interested in wasting your time or Representative Talbot Ross's time or the rest of my caucus's time. I say we go ahead and reschedule this. I will reach out to my colleagues on the committee on the other side and see when they can be here. As you said, there were lots of providers from all over the state, and I'm sure that the providers within their districts would like them to hear this information. So if that would be okay with you, instead of doing it twice and wasting your time, I would like to schedule it at a time when my entire committee can have this information. And I guess it wasn't today for the Republicans on the committee. So we'll schedule it another time.
that's fine, Representative Warren. And I really appreciate that. I will say candidly, and I know that we are being recorded, but I will say candidly that when I saw the screen of Zoom squares and saw so many of our colleagues leave the meeting and not being present, it was really disappointing because this is not a partisan issue. This is an issue that affects every single one of us, and it affects every single person in our respective districts. And we are beyond crisis levels. Our children are depending on us. People are dying due to drug overdose. We are incarcerating children, and the time is now. So I am more than happy to come back and share this very, very important, pertinent information with your entire committee at a time when we can all have a dialogue about this critically important issue.
Thank you. I'll have Senator Moore and other folks on the other side of the aisle express their interest in having their colleagues get this information. But without any longer stretching this on, I hope that you don't take me as rude. Let's be respectful of all of our time. And so thank you. I think that's everything for us for this week, unless Jane or Deb had anything to add. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you have a great, yes, Representative Reckitt.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a favor. I unfortunately was not able to attend the Mental Health Summit, although I had intended to. I'm wondering if you could perhaps send us the slides you're about to show sometime before our next get together with you, so that I could begin to think about what it is I might want to ask questions about. It'd be very helpful.
I would be glad to, Representative Reckitt, and I will, refer you to the email that I sent on the 24th. It's chock full of information, but I will forward the slides to everyone on the committee.
Okay, and I'm so backed up on emails, it's nuts. So I'll look back on the 24th from you. So.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to say thank you, and I absolutely do not feel any disrespect. To the contrary, feel completely valued and respected. So I just wanted to give my appreciation to your leadership and for the decision that you made, and would be glad to come back to address the full committee. We have to tackle these issues together, not an us versus them, and I appreciate your leadership in doing so. One other thing is I'll let the committee know there is some additional information that with Representative Gramlich's approval that I'll send on, that is specifically around those who are languishing in our prisons and jails and being unhoused as a result of it. So we'll send some more information before the next presentation, but thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I concur. No
great
fact.
Okay, great. Well, have a great weekend, everybody. I appreciate that. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice weekend.
Yep.